Hello and welcome to F12's Copilot for Microsoft 365 series. Today we're going to be covering Microsoft Excel and Copilot. We're going to go through a demonstration of Copilot's functions and features within Excel, and we're going to bump into some limits and explore some lessons that we can learn from interacting with Copilot. Now, recently we held boot camps in cities across Canada about Microsoft Copilot. We asked our audience what they'd like to learn more about. And the overwhelming answer was we'd like to see more real life demonstrations of Copilot. So we thought, okay, what would you like to see more demonstrations of? And the number one product that was requested was Excel. So I'm really pleased to cover this for you today and go through a bit of a primer over the next 30 minutes of Excel's features and functionalities with Copilot. And hopefully you'll leave with some more understanding. One thing I will do in this demonstration is record in real time. A lot of the Copilot demos cut out the processing time that Copilot takes to think about, analyze, and respond to prompts. I think that gives a misleading impression about the capabilities of Copilot. So this is all in real time, and we'll just have to be a little bit patient at times. There's a few things I need to cover about interacting with Copilot, period, but especially within Excel. One thing is that Copilot is continuing to be developed. So you may see prompts and responses and limitations that we run into today that aren't you're not running into them in your world months from now. And this is because Copilot continues to be developed. As well, it is a natural learning AI engine. That means that I'm going to ask it questions and it's going to give me answers and we're going to have a bit of a dialogue. And if you were to ask it the exact same question, you may get a slightly different answer. You will not get a word for word exact same answer. It's going to provide prompts and suggestions. You may get slightly different prompts and suggestions. That's all part of the AI fun. It is adapting and changing and using context in order to try to help you as best it can. And things are open for adjustment as they are, ironically enough, with the people in our lives. So without further ado, I'll bring up Excel and we'll get a little orientation on Copilot. Now, I've got a file and we're going to go through some things that are fairly common in demonstrations of Excel and Copilot. And then we're going to take it a little bit further and hopefully show you some things you haven't seen before. But to do that, we need some data. Here's a common file that's from e-bike productions. We've got a couple of tabs with data in it that's very raw. We've got bike inventory, so different models of e-bikes. We've got, price and production costs, and we've got quantities, and we've got sort of information about what's on hold, and then we've got sales performance. And under sales performance we can see models again, we can see production costs, we can see quantities on hand, all sorts of information. But as you can see, it's not formatted in any way other than we have a top part here that's clearly a header because it's explaining what's happening on the columns. Now, a few things you'll notice is that maybe you've caught on that I don't have autosave turned on. I left that off so you can learn, if you haven't already, about one of the important parts about working with Copilot. It is going to complain right away that autosave is turned off and asking that I turn it on. You must have autosave turned on for Copilot to work. Furthermore, your data must be formatted as a table. This raw format will not do. Fortunately, it's super easy to format as a table. We'll click here, and I'm loving turquoise today, so I will pick that. Perfect. Now we have ourselves a beautiful little Excel table. And you can tell it's a table because I've got these pull downs where I can do my filtering and sorting and things like that. All right, fantastic. None of that was Copilot, but I wanted to show you nonetheless. Important for you to know that Copilot will only work with Excel files that are formatted as a table, have autosave on, and are saved to the cloud. So this file I have in my OneDrive, but your file needs to be in OneDrive or SharePoint or Teams or somewhere else within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem for the functionality of Copilot to work, and it'll let you know if you try to use it without that being the case. I also want to let you know that currently some of the features, but not all of them, are limited to 2 million cells. So if you're opening up really large files, you're going to run into some challenges. You can do some features that are column based, but you're not going to be able to interact and analyze your data at this point. I don't know when that limitation is going to change, but that's a limitation we have today. All right, enough preamble. Let's get into it. Here's Copilot on the right-hand side here. Right at the top, you see it says preview. So first thing I want to point out, don't be alarmed if yours says Copilot Preview. That doesn't mean you have the wrong version or don't have the paid version. What Microsoft means by preview is a couple of things. Number one, it's not available in all languages. We're working in English, and of course we have it in English. The other part is that Copilot is always enhancing. It's still a relatively new product. So the Excel features are undergoing development. And in fact, every month there's new features being added to this or that Copilot for Microsoft 365 specific application. So just keep an eye out for that. As I said at the beginning, things are open to change, improvements are on their way. And then we can see that it's suggested 4 different prompts or 4 different trees we can go down. Create, if you want to add formula columns, edit, sort and filter, and analyze. As well, down here we have some prompt suggestions. Show data insights, so show a suggestion for a formula column, and how can I? The how can I is super powerful. You may be used to going to Google or something like that in order to figure out how to do something within Excel. Now you have this assistant right beside you, and you can easily ask it for information. How can I do this? Explain to me about that, and actually learn about features and functions within Excel that perhaps you had no idea even existed. I know after decades of using this product, I still find things that I did not know and that I wish I had known years before. There's this little refresh button too. So if you don't like these suggested prompts, you can ask it to make some new ones and it'll keep giving you basically some ideas, some suggestions about ways in which you could use it. And I see, keep an eye on for these because it may ask a question that you've never thought to ask Copilot before. And it may even ask a question you've never thought to interrogate your data for before and help you with an insight. And here's the actual prompt part where you can ask a question or make a request about the data in a table. So this is where we're going to actually enter and interact with Copilot. No surprise there, I know. And of course, we can use the microphone if we want. And here's a cool way where we can walk through these prompts. If we wanted to create something, we can kind of go through here and kind of walk through the prompts. So you can even go and click, as I did, on View More Prompts and get even further information. So there is a lot to learn. For example, it's talking about compares and extracts, and really is a good way to learn about the power of Copilot for Excel. Spend some time in here learning about different prompts like understand prompts or edit prompts, etc. All right. By now, you're no doubt anxious to see it do something. And if you are, I don't blame you in the slightest. So let's begin. I see some information here like production cost and current price, but I'm not seeing margin information. So what if we asked it, first of all, to add a column for profit margin? A column for profit margin. All right, it's working on it. Now, the reason it's going to be able to figure out what profit margin is because it understands what the word profit margin means, but it also understands things like cost and price. And so it's looked at and understood our data and suggested here a formula that it would like to add, which it's saying is current price minus production cost over current price. And sure enough, that's exactly what you want to get for a margin. And if you're curious about the formula, you can go click that show explanation and it'll give you more information so you can really understand what it's doing. Some formulas are a little more complicated. This one is pretty obvious. And then it gives you a little preview of what the answers will be in the first 5 rows here. And furthermore, there's the insert column button, but before you click on it, you get to see a preview of your data, which I think is just incredible, and is saying that, hey, AI generated content may be inaccurate. So it's up to you to make sure that what the formula is suggesting is in fact going to give you the the margin that you're looking for. So, it's helping you, but you've got to, like any assistant, validate, validate, validate. I like this. I'm going to go ahead and say insert column, and boom, I have this Lovely little profit margin column, and I'm noticing that there's negative profit margin. That is not awesome, and I would like to make that more visible. So how about we have a little look here and ask Copilot to, I don't know, mark, oops, let me just get that, mark all items with a negative profit margin with an icon. And let's see what it does here. And that, if you're familiar with conditional formatting, it can be tedious. Using Copilot can make things a whole lot easier. Let's see what it says. It says, I can apply a conditional formatting to the profit margin column. Would you like to proceed with that? And indeed, I would like to proceed with that. Only it's not giving me, it is not giving me a yes, no answer. Isn't that interesting? Well, let's try to ask this a slightly separate way. Let's mark all items in column Q with a negative profit margin with an icon, please. And let's see if that helps it out here. Typically, and this is an example of where things can go a little bit sideways, is typically you would see a little prompt button for a yes or no um, when it's asking you a question. We didn't get that for some reason, but that's what a real world demo will show you. And as you can see, it is adding little icons. Excellent. You've made all the columns with a negative profit. Yeah, but they're gray. I don't want them to be gray. Make the icons in column Q colorful, please. And I guess it doesn't like, or I haven't set my Canadian English. Don't tell anyone. Let's see if we get more visuals out of it. The last time I did this, I had colorful icons right away. So it's a little curious to me that this time it decided to make them gray. Oh, look at that. Now they're buttons and I've got red, which is just fantastic. Traffic lights let me see it, and I can quickly see that, my goodness, there's a few negative profit margins. And look at that. It gave me low profit margin ones too. So that makes my data a little easier to visualize. All righty. Now, it's got some other suggestions here, like show me with items with quantity on hand of 9. Maybe you'd like to see all items that have, quantity on hand of greater than 10. Like, what are the items we need to move, perhaps do a sale or a promotion on? And you can ask it to bold the first column, do all sorts of like visual cues like that. But I'm just gonna ask add to show me insights. Now, what this is going to do is analyze the data and try to pick out patterns and information and actually suggest ways of visualizing your data. Now, sometimes the results you get from this are not particularly helpful, and sometimes they're incredibly insightful. Like, I never thought to ask that. All right, so it's got an RRP by product column. So here's the retail price by product category. Get a little bit of information about that. That's pretty good. Let's say add all insights to grid. So it's going to open up a separate sheet, and there it put in a whole pile of insights, not just the one it showed me, but it is creating, oh, look at this. There's the one we saw before. Oh, it's got min rider height by frame size. It's got fork length. And so you can kind of pick through these and go like, what is useful? And of course, you can see it's created a pivot chart, and you can adjust things if you wanted. Like, hey, this is by current price by product category. Maybe I want to see current price by, I don't know, by wheel size. And those are the kind of adjustments you can easily make. Fork length. We got minimum rider height and quantity sold. That over here. Excellent. And what do we want to adjust here? Select multiple fields. How about that? Well, let's add wheel size, height, minimum rider height, maximum rider height. I'm just grabbing a few so that we can kind of see how, if you've used pivot charts, pivot tables before, you know you could build this, but you probably know that it took you a little bit to learn how to do that. And here it was all just done for me. Super easy way to analyze the data. All right, we still have our profit margin issue. So let's say that we want to do an increase in our current price, and we happen to know our production costs are going up. So let's say add a new column that shows a 10% increase in current price. Um, show what that does to our profit margin. Let's see if I can figure this out. So now I'm actually asking it to interact with the data in a different sort of a way. I'm asking it to model a change, obviously. Of course, I could create a column, add 10%, and it is suggesting, yeah, current price times 1.1, that would add 10%, minus production cost equals current price divided rather by current price 1.1. So it's going to show what a 10% price increase will do. That is fine. Let's have a look at what that shows. Oh, it gave me both the price and look at that. I think we have profit. But oh no, our costs are going up too. So let's see if we can push this a little bit farther. I'm just going to actually copy what I said before, which is I'm going to say, listen, let's model a 10% increase in current price, and we're getting hit by our suppliers, and so we have a 6% increase in our. Let me just spell things correctly, and we'll be off to the races. Actually, spelling isn't all that important. Sometimes, well, I mean, it's important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the world's best speller, but I found Copilot has been very generous in ignoring my spelling mistakes and understanding my intent, which is more than I can say for some people I know. All right. Now, what is it doing? Okay, it's adding production cost, increased cost, yeah, current price, increased cost. It's doing both of those. So this time it's doing things a little bit differently. It's going to adjust. It's going to insert new columns. Okay, great. All right, but you did not. Okay, interesting. So it added the increased price, it added the increased cost, but it didn't show me a profit margin. So let's go ahead and say um, add a column that shows the increased price and rather, let's say it shows the margin from that results from the increased price and increased cost. Let us see what it does with that. What I'm hoping is that it'll create another profit margin and that we can then analyze how this is going to look. Yeah, so it's looked at that, increased price 2, which is the name of that column, and minus increased price. Excellent. And it's got to divide by 0. Interesting. So what is going on here? I said all. Okay. Some of you would have noticed that my writing was wrong and have thought that maybe I was demonstrating um, how Copilot can read even my incorrect spelling, but that wasn't intentional. That was just a mistake. Here we go. It is generating the formula and column suggestions, and hopefully without an error this time. And there we go. Gonna insert that into the column. I admit I don't know what happened there, but at any rate, we got it. And we saw that our new margin is 2%. Fantastic. We still now notice that we have some, and I could of course do some more conditional formatting, etc. I could ask, what is our highest margin product category? and it will do some magic to figure that out for us. We got drum discs and disc brakes. I'm just looking at the data, seeing what else we might want to interrogate it for. And it's saying, look, there's the top product category by profit margin: mountain, hybrid, tour, e bike. Oh, they're all 36%. Well, that's not entirely exciting, but I'll add that in there anyway. Of course, that gives me an idea. Okay, so it's all there. Now let's go back to sales performance and let's increase the price. We could increase the price of something by 10% and change all of those sorts of things, and that would be really cool. Let's do that. Increase the price on let's go increase. I'll just go current. The current price on all mountain bikes by 50%. Let's just say there's a run on mountain bikes. Now, of course, I could go through and figure them out and sort them and and manually make a formula and paste it and pull it down. But if you got a data set with thousands and thousands of rows, that can be super tedious. So look at that. What it changed. I've increased the current price of all mountain bikes by 50%. What a great example. It took the product category and it it increased current price by 1.5%. But it did it to the product category, not to the current price. I would say now we've got a little prompt. I'll say undo that, please. All right. Let us begin again, shall we? Let's see if we can ask the question a different way. Increase the current price column by 10%, but only for products for the product category mountain. Let's see now if we get a little more specific in our prompting, give it a little bit more information to work with, if we'll get better results. It's just figuring itself out right now, and we'll get an answer shortly. Oh, it says, please bear with me. All right. Let's try something new. How many different bikes have a production cost above $3,000? So I see some have six, some have five, some have 1,984, some have two. So that's an answer that it could do a sort and a drag to get to. But here's Copilot to help me get the answer a lot easier. And there you go. Distinct count of model where production cost is greater than 3,000. So it says that we can add that to a new sheet, and it will create the pivot table in order to get there. There you go. Oh, no, it didn't. It actually just created this lovely little, isn't that interesting? It created this lovely little formula where it went through and did account for all of the unique products. That is so neat how it does things differently. Let's go back to sales performance here. And what we can do is ask, we can be a little more specific. We can say, create a pivot chart that shows, actually, I'm going to say a pivot table. We'll have some fun that way. Create a pivot table that shows all the rider heights by product category. We'll hit enter on that, and it'll take a couple of seconds while it analyzes the data, and hopefully I have no spelling mistakes this time that can obfuscate my request, and it should pop in another sheet with the information that we're looking for. And indeed it did. And it's finishing up before I can click add a new sheet. Yeah, it says great. The pivot table has been created, showing, and I will say add it to a new sheet. It's funny, it actually said that it had been created before I clicked on the add to a new sheet, but now it has been created. And there you go. You got the product category, average minimum height. And of course, since it's a pivot table, I could add other features if I wanted to just adjust my data. And of course, if I didn't want it by product category, maybe I wanted it also by row, by models. I could get that information however I want, just by the power of a pivot table. But I was able to get that started nicely by our friends at Copilot. Fantastic. Well, it looks like insights for quantity on hand. I was kind of talking about that before, about that might be something. If you've got a big inventory report to actually know what products you have that have excess surplus inventory that you want to make sure that you have awareness of, perhaps do a promotion on. That might be something you'd want to see a little bit more information on. And of course, we there you go. There's quantity on hand by wheel size and brakes. That's really interesting. So you can kind of know, and of course, wheel size affects the size of the riders you have. So are you fit for tall riders, short riders, etc. Of course, if you're selling children's bikes, that would be fairly helpful. Now we had it. We said generically provide us insights and created some charts, but it might be helpful to actually ask more specifically for a chart. So create a chart that shows what do we want to see? Yes, production average, that shows average production cost by product category. This will be a good one. And you notice I'm saying average, so I could say production cost, but I actually wanted to add a formula in the calculation that it's doing for our chart. That's why I said average. Just wanted to give it a little bit more work to do. And as you can see, it's taking its a little bit of time here as it figures out that request. There it goes. Beautiful. Product cost by product category. Fantastic. Add it to a new sheet. As a chart has been created, check the clustered bar chart above for details. Fantastic. So, of course, showing it up there. There's production cost average. It's got the information that I asked for. And of course, it is a pivot chart. So, if we wanted to adjust it further, yeah, we just click on it. And then we have the pivot table fields to go through. So, that is pretty cool. All right. Back to sales performance. And you get the idea. From here, we could do all sorts of things. We can create, which is to add columns like we've been talking about. And this is why it's so important right now for it to be a table. That's what it wants to do. We can even split text. This is kind of handy if you've got like employee names combined. Like everybody, sometimes they get data, and instead of it being first name, last name, it's just name. I hate that. This is a way you can really easily split the text. Let's say you've got email addresses, and you want to extract the domain name from the email address, something I have to do all the time, and I always have to Google and look it up. I could just ask it, hey, split off everything to the right of the at symbol and put that under a new column called domain name. Those sorts of things are pretty handy. You could also look up data, return the blank. So we are creating charts and things. So you could actually just ask questions. Hey, return the average price, or return the price of, or return the salesperson who achieved whatever you need. Um, and of course, dates and compares. That's under the create idea. Understand is pretty cool. Like which items have the most blank, or spot trends, which is really interesting if you have date specific, and data to work with. And when I mean date specific, I mean like day, month, year. With your data, then you can spot trends over time. Highlight rows with the least quantities on hand. I think that's an important thing to know. I'm looking right now, I see like row 26, there's only, is it 26? 27, there's only one quantity at hand. And oh, there's a zero in there, a couple of zeros I'm spotting. And if I scroll down, I'll probably see some other ones. And you can scroll down and look at your data while it's working. So this demonstrates a really important consideration when using Excel and Copilot. It will work in columns, not so much in rows. That is a limitation right now. I don't know how long that limitation will endure for. It's important to keep in mind. That concludes our demonstration of Microsoft Copilot inside of Excel. Hope you enjoyed it and learned some things. I did want to end with a note that if you happen to have the license for Python for Microsoft Excel, which came out late in 2023, if memory serves, there are all sorts of advantages you get from Copilot where you can ask it to analyze and forecast your data and work with code. Generative AI happens to be really, really good at creating code. So if you are one of those individuals who's using Python or want to explore Python within Microsoft Excel, Copilot is all the more compelling. Thank you for joining, and please keep an eye out for future editions of our Copilot from Microsoft 365 series. Thank you.